to another episode of Psychonaut Sessions, your home for all things psycho. Mind to 5 edition. This is your host, Daniel Muller, and alternating co-host
Aaron Conaway from Drinks Around the Table.
Yeah, how you doing, man?
I'm doing all right.
Yeah?
You?
Oh, I'm living it up. We're having a great time over here. I'm ready to dive into this new Mind to 5 edition. We announced it in the last Spider-Man one on your channel.
Did. Yep.
So
everybody got a heads up.
Today's a special one. It's near and dear to my heart, and we're going to talk about movies that have been adapted from a novel. We're going to go over our top 5 movies that have been adapted into, from a novel, not into.
From a novel, yeah.
That would actually be a fun one, maybe. Movies adapted into the novel. And
well, I mean, we've got, that could be, there's some good book adaptations of movies. That could be a fun one.
I don't think I've read a single one since I was like 11, so we'll see.
Yeah, it's been a minute since I've gone the other way.
It's been a while. We got ground rules.
Material.
We got ground rules for this one. It had to be, of course, a movie we saw. It has to be a movie that we saw. We're not talking about the cream of the crop. This is literally just our favorites. What's near and dear to our hearts. It doesn't have to be, this is the best Citizen Kane of all blah blah blah.
Right.
We're never gonna go down that route in this channel. It's always gonna be about what hits our heart. And
exactly. We did tighten it a little better this time, though.
We did.
It's not like the graphic novel or the comic collaborators where we were like, but wait, I didn't. You meant that? Yeah.
Right. It
basically,
won't be that messy.
It wasn't too stringent, but it was a little more rules. Like basically, we had to have read the book. You
had to have read the book. Which eliminated a lot for me, actually, more than what I was assuming. And there's a lot of cases where I was like, wait a minute, I thought I read that book, but I really didn't read that book. So, yeah. Oh, well. Your list will probably be more robust than mine. Although,
probably not.
I told Autumn, my wife, my lovely wife, if we could find somebody to bet on Aaron's number 1 pick, I am more than confident I could put all 3 of my children through college.
Yeah. So far, everyone that knows us personally that watched the Spider-Man episode is like, well, I already know what your number 1 is. I've been a bit verbose, evidently, over the years on anyway, we'll get to it.
That's mostly that I just know you, man.
Let's
see though, because there's a bit of me that gets a little trepidatious around betting. Thank God I don't have any real bets out there, but I'm betting with the universe. So
there you go. You were like, I bet you know mine. For the life of me, when I think of your favorite movies, none of them are based off novels. So I was like, or at least not the ones that come to mind immediately. And when we do this, it may be like, oh shit, I forgot about that one. But like when I think of when I think of like your longtime favorites, well, we don't need to get into it. We'll find out. We can talk about it after.
But now I'm really nervous. Now I'm wondering if this is going to be another first episode.
No.
We're going to be completely in left field again. We've got this. Right. It's beautiful.
So I'll do we're doing the 2 honorable mentions, right?
Let's go honorable mentions. You're up. Honorable mentions.
All right. My honorable mentions are 2004's Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban's 2004's Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. That's my favorites.
Gary Oldman.
That's my favorite Harry Potter book. That's my favorite Harry Potter movie.
Mm-hmm.
Gary Oldman comes in the mix. We got Lupin shows up. We've got Karan's direction, like the whole tone of the series shifts. Not to the extent that the 4th one did. Like it shifts tonally heavily at the end of that one. But anyway, 3rd, love it. And then my other honorable mention is 2001's Fellowship of the Ring. And it's, yes, it is part of a book, but everybody, for the most part, read that, like back in the day, back before the movies. Everybody that I knew read them as individual Fellowship, Two Towers, Return of the King.
Mm-hmm.
So it might be a little bit of a cheat, but it's the one that I have as a Lord of the Rings huge fan. like of the novel, the purist in me does like, there are a couple of beats throughout the trilogy where I'm like,
Right.
okay. But both the spirit and just the least amount of those moments happen for me in Fellowship. That's the one that I've watched the most. Like it's before everything gets super heavy. Anyway, there's honorable mentions. We're not supposed to go that deep. But
yeah,
yes,
man. Whoa.
those are my two.
Whew, it's hot in here already. Not going to argue with either of those. Although, I'm not a Harry Potter hater. I'm just not like a diehard Harry Potter fan. So that's the only one that I'm like,
Right.
My honorable mentions, 1977's Hobbit. That cartoon movie is just, what can I say? It just rings everything true to my childhood. You got the songs. The songs are still in my head to this day.
Sure.
Jesus, you have John Huston as the narrator and as Gandalf. What more do you need, ladies and gentlemen?
Yep. Rankin Bass art.
Rankin
like,
Bass. Yeah, just mwah. Yeah. If they could animate everything in the world, them and Ralph Bakshi, just and Don Bluth. There you go. Just go create every animated movie.
Right.
And then 1962's To Kill a Mockingbird, directed by Robert Mulligan. Gregory Peck sold it for me. That I will watch that movie any day. I think it's like, not only is it awesome, I also think it's just a great it's probably the only way you could have really adapted that book in any way, shape, or form. I know it's a high school read, but it's an amazing book. It's timeless. It speaks to everything that needs to be spoken to. Yeah, anyway, honorable mentions.
Picks.
How are you feeling so far?
I think we're on better footing than we were with comic collaborators.
Here we go. Let's go up to the edge. All right, ladies and gentlemen, number 5.
My number 5 is 1994's Shawshank Redemption. You knew King was going to be on here at some point.
I didn't know King was going to be on here. Shawshank Redemption's a good movie. It's a very good movie.
I was actually torn between this and Green Mile. It just nudges out Green Mile because both are fantastic adaptations. And I mean, it's pretty telling that Frank Darabont directed both of them.
I was going to ask.
Green Mile mostly like from this is how I pictured it in the book. This is amazing. Like this is literally this scene. And there's a couple of moments where that happens in Green Mile. But the reason that the Shawshank Redemption edges it out, for one, the different seasons, the collection of novellas I actually prefer to Green Mile. And two, both are really hard movies to watch. But particularly coming from me, in an odd twist, the grounding of it being more realistic in Shawshank Redemption, combined with the fact that, oddly enough, given the source material, it's the more hopeful of the two.
Yeah.
Like, that got at the edge.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, the acting across the board in both flicks, but yeah, Shawshank. What's weird is, like, it is the one of my top 5 where there's a big difference between the novella. There's a couple of differences, but there's a big difference in the novella and the movie. But as I move down my list, like this is the one that's most book accurate. As I get further and further down, I get further and further afield from those source material. But that's
never read the book, but it's certainly, I think, my most favorite movie with Stephen King's name attached to it that I can think of. Solid flick. Yeah. All around.
I mean, he has a bunch that are close, but both versions of it, like, it's much like the book and most like everybody else says, like, everybody loves the kids stuff. And when they get to adults, it's like, whatever.
Yeah.
So, yep. But that's mine. What's your number 5?
Hey, 1992's Bram Stoker's Dracula, directed by Francis Ford Coppola. Nice. And funny enough, so if you take like those classic monster books, Dracula, Frankenstein's actually my favorite. I love Dracula the monster, but the book is actually quite boring. It's not. There's a few moments that are kind of interesting, but it's this adaptation of the book. And I already mentioned his name earlier, and if you know me, Gary Oldman is one of the greatest actors of all time, and his delivery as Dracula just slays. Now, Autumn and I watched it, I know, a few years ago, and it's a little dated in terms of the 90s sort of. There's some like just weird choices that's like, what, you know?
Right.
But overall, I still love it. I loved it when it first came out. It was actually my favorite movie ever for about 10 years or so. But yeah, Gary Oldman's delivery, he makes Dracula just this horrible, demonic, but then could just move right into just being this charming, graceful, just the beauty of Gary Oldman. And then, I mean, come on, Anthony Hopkins is Van Helsing. Like, what can you not love about that? So I love the movie. I'll watch it anytime. So
no, it's a solid pick.
But that's where I'm at. Okay.
All right.
Number 4.
My number 4 is 2007 Stardust.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a really
Neil
good
Gaiman and Charles Best's. Well, it's weird. Like I read it first as a graphic novel, and I believe it came out as a graphic novel first.
It did.
In '97, and then they did the adaptation. But I mean, I knew the graphic novel more. But Matthew Vaughn just nails. And in this instance, this is the first one where I actually prefer. I don't know that I prefer in this one. It's close, but there are choices that they made for the flick that I prefer over some of the choices that were made in the graphic novel. Now, if nothing else, the pronunciation of Tristan over Tristran, like I never knew how I was supposed to pronounce that. Tristran.
Right.
But anyway, like just it across the board, like the direction, the cinematography, just the feel of it all. De Niro's like the Lightning Pirates. I've watched this movie countless times. Lauren is a huge fan of his as well, and like there's just a charm to it that's hard to put into words for me. It just works though.
It's like a current. I mean, what's the year?
07.
07, but it's like a 21st century Princess Bride. It had that same kind of feel to it of just like, this is just fun, fantasy, love, adventure. It's just awesome.
It's light. It's not like super heavy, which sometimes that's good. Sometimes it's good to just kick back and go on an adventure. And I mean, it's got magic and it's got pirates, and I just dig it. Nice. It is my number 4.
That was actually on my long list, Stardust. So it got cut out.
Yeah, sorry. That happened.
Okay, my number 4. Are you ready? Are you done? I'm sorry.
Yeah. Good? No, I'm sorry.
My number 4 is a brand new movie. Just came out. Yep, Dune 2021.
Oh wow. Okay.
Denis Villeneuve. So I'm not saying this is a perfect adaptation, but
that's a hard sell for Dune.
Yeah, very hard. But this is an amazing movie.
It was
movie.
First half.
I've already loved Denis Villeneuve. I already knew I was just gonna love it because everything he's done so far for me has been gold. He's my favorite, like more recent director, like that's come onto the scene the past few years.
Yeah.
So Sicario, Blade Runner, Arrival, just.
Sicario is the only one I haven't seen, but I loved both Blade Runner and Arrival.
So good. But also Hans Zimmer, the soundtrack, the sound, just, I mean, when Autumn and I were in the theater, it just everything resonated, and it was one of the first movies we had gone back to the theater to see, and what a delivery. It just, everything connected. I will say that there were some acting choices that weren't 100% on par, although it was okay. It was nothing that we were just like, what? And it's not like they got, I know a friend of mine critiqued about what's her name, Rebecca Ferguson as Lady Jessica was a little too emotive. I thought it all worked. I thought it worked great.
I'm a huge fan of hers, so it would have been she would have had to really mess up. And I mean, I get that point, but I was fine.
Well, you felt the connection between her and Paul so much more authentically in this one than David Lynch's version and the
sci-fi version.
The made for TV version. And it was really because of the way those actors and it was weird. It was like you walking into that movie felt like you were walking into someone's quiet conversation almost. Like it just kind of starts, and then before you know it, like I'm talking about scenes like when they're on the landing pad and Paul and Jessica are talking and there's all this mist and they're so far away from each other, but they're just talking like this, and it's it's like you really have to like be engaged in this movie to enjoy, and that's the kind of movie I really love. I'm so glad, of course, they greenlit part 2. Can't wait for it. Right. I would say the only thing I was a little disappointed in was there wasn't much on Shutout Mapes, the helper for Lady Jessica. She was just kind of in and out. And the Space Guild was the representation of the Space Guild was a little let down. It wasn't as fantastical as like Lynch's ideas, but it was still cool. It was 100% love it. I mean, made my number 4. I was
gonna say, it's in your top 5. So
so let's go to number 3.
So number 3, which you unintentionally buried the lead a little here, is 1987's Princess Bride.
Nice.
Which is basically, I do consider like a spiritual cousin to Stardust. It's not, I mean, it's lower in the list or higher in the list, obviously, because it's the Princess Bride. Like, I mean, based on the 73 novel, I'm not a huge fan of the novel, and it may be because I came to it later. Like, I did read it after the fact, and it's fine, but I'm not. Yeah, it doesn't hit that perfect little, like we were talking about with Stardust. Like, it's just the mix of it all. Reiner just, I don't know how he did it, because on paper I wouldn't like Princess Bride. It could come off as schmaltzy. It could come off as too just sincere, and but the jokes land, the moments of like just levity all over the place lands, and having those moments where it's not heavy necessarily, but like, I don't know, sincere moments, those beats where Inigo gets the six-fingered man.
Right.
That whole speech. And even before I knew the backstory of what was going through the actor's head when he did the scene, which does make it even heavier and like, oh my God. But even before I knew that, like that moment, like the music cuts and he's got him and he does the speech, and it's like, oh, and I mean, come on, Andre the Giant.
I know. I mean, I think it's the one that probably could be the most quoted movie of all time.
Yeah, certainly in the internet, age of the internet. Like, I mean, memes and yeah, I adore this movie. I've seen this movie an awful lot.
It would have made my list if I would have read the book.
Oh yeah, it's worth a read. It's very different. In the body of it is very different. Like, there are elements of it that are really, really cool.
Yeah.
Zoo of Death alone is like fun as hell. But yeah, the pacing, because the pacing of the movie is just so flawless to me, the pacing of the book is off. And so yeah, I have it, but I don't.
Who's the director again?
Rob Reiner.
That's right.
Yeah, so
yeah,
that is my number 3.
Perfect comedic timing in that movie. Number 3 for me, Disney movie, 1951's Alice in Wonderland.
Nice.
So not gonna say it's a perfect adaptation at all, but I grew up with it. It sticks with me.
It definitely catches the madness tone, like the spirit of the novel.
Anytime I have weird, mad dreams, that movie is an influence. Most definitely. But what's interesting is like the three main directors, Clyde Geronimi, Wilfred Jackson, Hamilton Luske, they did Peter Pan and Cinderella as well, and a lot of the same actors were carried over from that.
Right.
And Ed Wynn as the Mad Hatter, and Ed Wynn is like a Disney staple. He's like in a ton of movies in the 50s and 60s, and he is such a character. Like the whole tea party scene, I must have like tried to replay that scene as a little child, like over and over again. I just wanted to live, and it's not because I even like liked tea or cared about tea. It was just insane.
Right.
These guys were just like absolutely crazy, and I love the style and aesthetic of the Disney movies back then, or any kind of movies or animation with the deep, heavy shadows, especially in the background. Just that hits my aesthetic hard. It's a great movie, and I know there's like Disney haters out there, but like, how could you not like Alice in Wonderland as a movie?
Right.
That's all I'm gonna say.
It's the tagline of this episode.
Putting my stake in the ground. Number two, sir. Number
two, my penultimate favorite novel adaptation is 1982's The Thing.
Oh, nice.
Adapted from the John W. Campbell Jr. novella from 1938. Nice. I had seen Thing from Another World first, the 1951 adaptation, but I mean, Carpenter's version, like, combined, and I know it bombed when it first came out, but that makes zero sense. I don't understand moviegoers in the early 80s, late 70s, early 80s. Like, I just don't understand. But John Carpenter's direction with Rob Bottin's special effects, like, they so beautifully capture the feeling of isolation and claustrophobia and like not being able to trust anybody, and not even being able to discern what it is you can't, like, there's no tell of yours that I can, like, oh, that's, and tell, you flame, but I mean, it freaks me out as a kid, like when they're trying to do the compressions and it gets his I don't want to spoil anything in case there's anybody left that hasn't seen it, but
that would be weird.
It's the
special effects certainly go down in history as like some of the best of all time.
And then, I mean, on top of just the, like, all the cool touches too, the fact that, I mean, I didn't learn until years and years later that, like, the Norwegian yelling, like, if I spoke Norwegian, it ruins the movie, because he's saying, like, the dog's not, like, don't do that, like, you'll die, like, there's something wrong with the dog. I can't remember what he says, but basically gives the, like, don't do it, it's not a dog, you're gonna die. Oh, well, you shot me. Okay.
What I love about movies from that era too, and especially horror movies from that era, the way that movie ends is so just obscure. They're just sitting there with everything burning around them, and you don't know of, like, wait a minute, is one of them what? Like, it just it's so just leaves
regardless of the perspective you look at it from. You don't know if it's like, if I look at it from his perspective, I've got no reason to think that he's not a creature. Right. And if you flip it, it's the same exact way. And then it just ends. And I mean, there have been, like, little tells that have been shared over the years where they say that, but I ignore all of that because I love that ambiguous. Is humanity potentially saved, or are we all screwed? Right. Like, no, that's perfect. So
never needed to be remade. Never, there doesn't need to be a franchise of it. Just perfect story.
I don't hate the prequel sequel that they made. It suffers mostly from special effect. Like, they focused on trying to tie the story, and they did a decent job of tying the story, but you're trying to match the story in a movie that's famous for effects, and
Mhm.
you didn't like CG just wasn't gonna cut it, particularly when that came out, because that came out in like 09, 08, 09, 010, right in there.
Yeah.
And yeah, it fails horribly on that front. But anyway, yeah, no, it you could have left it alone and been fine. And it's my number 2.
Solid choice. Haven't read the book either. So, who was the
The
author
novella's
again?
fun. Campbell Jr., John W. Campbell Jr. It's from 1938, so I mean,
Ooh.
you gotta love golden age sci-fi.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
I know you do, but like
Yeah.
anybody watching, keep that in mind. Like
I'll check that out.
If you don't dig that golden age where it's mostly about the idea, more so than the character developments of any kind,
Right.
or dialogue, or
Right.
any of the stuff that we really focus on nowadays,
Yeah.
was byproducts of the idea.
Yeah.
Like, it's just an idea that I have, and I want to put this forth, and on that front, it's very
Dime
cool.
novel fiction.
Yep.
Yeah. Perfect.
What's your
Okay.
2?
My number 2. I can't go through this list without Terry Gilliam.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any movie list, for that matter. Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, 1998.
Son of a bitch. Gilliam was, because Brazil is what you talk about the most. And I was like, I don't think that's.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
And then I thought, like, maybe Don Quixote, but then anyway, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, this one was actually adapted from a novel.
Right.
Most
I
of
know
his
that.
most of his stuff are
forgot it.
original scripts. This is Hunter S. Thompson, book of the same name, 1971. There are some differences, but if you ask me, I think this is actually probably one of the most perfect adaptations from a book into, and it is a novel. It is considered a novel. It's not like, it's memoir-ish, you know, the names of the characters are different. It's based upon a lot of experiences, but it is considered a fiction novel. So I hope that's okay. I kind of walked up to the line there.
That's cool.
But just, first of all, anything Terry Gilliam is amazing to me, but just Depp and Benicio del Toro's. This was actually I've always kind of liked Johnny Depp, but this was my introduction to Benicio del Toro, and my God, I was like, who is this dude? He can, and I've been watching him. He's very close to Gary Oldman for me, because he can do anything. He can do anything.
That's true.
And he's both hilarious, goofy, and savage, all rolled up into this Gonzo character. And Raoul Duke, of course, Johnny Depp as Raoul Duke is just fabulous. You know, it's like watching Charlie Chaplin on screen. Like, everything everybody loved about Pirates of the Caribbean and his like, I felt like I had already seen in Fear and Loathing. But yeah, so it's a perfect adaptation, and it's for a guy who doesn't, and he swears he does not do drugs. He doesn't do drugs at all. He tried smoking pot once with Monty Python when he first started hanging out with Monty Python, and he was like, nope, like, reality's like way too weird for me already. This stuff doesn't cut it. He captured the drug experience perfectly, better than any film ever, just like, it's to the T. And it's a hilarious movie. I love it.
Yeah. No,
one of my ultimate favorites. If not, it's my second favorite, obviously, adaptation. But and then you got Lyle Lovett, Gary Busey, Christina Ricci, Tobey Maguire. I mean, in these funky roles, it's
right. I can't believe I forgot Fear and Loathing, because I racked my brain for a long time. I should have just went to IMDb, but I was like, all the Gilliam stuff I can think of is not based on or an adaptation. So
yeah.
Well, that's not true. I did that. He has that one that's really messed up about the with the young girl, and she like hangs out with Thailand, which is based on a novel. But I was like, surely that's not going to make his top 5.
No, that's the one Gary Gilliam movie that I don't think I will ever watch again. I don't think I can do it.
Once was enough. That was an intense watch.
That was uncomfortable.
Yeah.
All right. Enough of the weirdness. Let's hit, ladies and gentlemen, moment we've been waiting for.
to see whether or not.
Yeah, we got to figure out a drum roll motif
Right.
for the first one.
Yeah, I
and
know.
some rocket ships exploding or some shit.
So I don't remember if I mentioned, but as my list has gone on, I prefer the movie to the book, which I understand is sacrilege as a book reader, but sometimes it's just true. And so
Waiting to see if my kid's going to college or not.
my number one, it's the exact truth. Like it's 100% the movie is better than the book.
Killing me.
And my number one is 1974's, or the book was 74, 1975's Jaws.
Yes, my kids are going to college.
Yep. So Peter Benchley's 1974 book is
Jaws, I called it.
Is not good. The book is not good. Anybody that tells you the book is good doesn't know what you're asking, because it's not a good book. Like not necessarily. I mean, Peter Benchley's a fine author, but the plot is just no. The movie is far superior in every single way. I mean, John Williams' score makes it. I'm blanking on Edna's last name, but Spielberg's direction, obviously he's Spielberg, but the editing is flawless in this movie. Like I would argue, makes a lot of the scenes, like just how it was cut. But
everybody's been trying to match that style of editing since then. That's like one of those like milestone markers in film history. Yeah.
Regardless of what mood I'm in, I can watch Jaws, because it can be anything. It's all in the perspective of what you look at. It can be a slasher flick. There's a killer that's killing people and they've got to stop the killer. It can be a fantasy flick. I mean, there's a dragon, and like the knight, the warlock, and the grizzled old whatever. I don't know what you'd call Quint at that point. But anyway, like the trio have to go out and face the monster. I mean, it's every single kind of story, plot, movie wrapped into one, and it's all just what you kind of focus on when you're watching it. It's got the family dynamic that Spielberg's, particularly in those days, in the early days, was known for. Like all of his stuff had family. There's shooting stars that they put, like, it's just all these little quiet moments that make a fantastic flick. I've seen it countless. I have no idea how many times I've seen this movie. I mean, we watch it every 4th of July, and I probably watch it at least once or twice beyond that. But compared to the book, I mean, the book is horrid. Like, I know I've covered that, but like, there's Hopper and Brody's wife have an affair, and because she knew Hopper's older brother in college, so she kind of like has an in already, and she's bored living on this island, and so they start having an affair. Spoilers for the book, by the way. Hopper dies in it, in the book, but wait, Hooper, not Hopper. I gotta lay off anyway. He dies. Basically, it's all. And the one thing that is interesting, and is probably a little more thrilling in hindsight, is the way that they dispose of the shark in the book. Because basically, Quint's stabbing the shit out of it. He's hurt, like it's been wounded totally. The ship is sinking. Brody is on the ship. It's down. He's in the water. The shark's coming up to him, and basically the shark just succumbs to its wounds and dies, and just slowly falls underneath him as it's coming up to eat him. So that is more thrilling, but cinematically, shooting the tank, even if Mythbusters broke that as being feasible, still,
who cares?
Makes for my number one movie of my top 5.
That's awesome. I would say even almost like of all time, but maybe you don't want to give that away. We'll see.
My favorite movies of all time? No, yeah, it's definitely my favorite movies of all time. I mean, yeah, it's my number one.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, that's cool.
I have no idea what your number one is.
What? That's so weird.
I can't, like...
My number one... Really?
I can't think of it.
All right. Well, we've already talked about it. My number
All right.
one favorite movie of all time is also my number one favorite adaptation. It's Fellowship of the Ring. It's Lord of the
Oh.
Rings trilogy altogether.
Right.
But my number one is like, and if I had to choose out of the three movies, I could really do consider them all one movie.
I do too.
And the book kind of all one book too, but
I definitely consider the book all one book.
Yeah.
But the movies I do just by association.
But yeah, hands down. I mean, Ian McKellen, Gandalf is everything. Like that is my Jesus. Ian McKellen's Gandalf the Grey. I mean, you got Christopher Lee. So, I mean, every element of these movies are absolutely perfect. They, like what you were speaking to before, they just capture that fantastical sense of adventure that I love about all movies.
Yeah.
I think it was or all stories, period. I think that this was probably one of the few movies ever, and certainly the last movie that I think as soon as I got out of the theater, I immediately called you squealing like a girl going, ah! I mean, just
no, and I missed it. Like I didn't get to go. It was when we first moved to Kansas City, and I was down home for the holidays, and you guys went, and I was like, son of a. So we went when I got back. We immediately went and watched it again.
It was one of the most memorable experiences because it was, we were out of college, we had been through this shit, we were kind of entering adulthood in this really hard way. And when me and the other guys got out of the theater, it was snowing a blizzard. Like everything was shutting down. There was snow like 2 or 3 feet high by the time we got out, and we had to walk to the apartment. And we just ran like we were fighting orcs. Like we felt like we were 5 years old all over again. And we acted it out. And we were just, and it was just, I hadn't felt like a kid like that in so long. And that movie did it. And I feel that almost in that movie too, and even especially Fellowship, the scene towards the end with Sam and Frodo on the boat.
Yep.
And Sam's
like,
you
are, and I'm
don't
going
you
with you.
Don't you leave him, Samwise Gamgee.
That's
and I don't mean to, and or whatever he says. I literally cry every single time. Every single time. It is like that. It's got everything I need in a movie right there. Just even in that first one. But I mean, Autumn and I watch it every single year. Every single year on the holiday season. And we haven't quite made it through the extended editions this year, unfortunately, but it's definitely a tradition for us. And
same here. I mean, all the Harry Potters are too, but yeah, I mean, I may have to go watch it after we get done here, but yeah, I mean, obviously it made my honorable mentions, but for the most part, it just lack of time with it is the reason it didn't, like, it wasn't further up. Because I mean, Tolkien, I mean, I haven't the last 3 or 4 years, but I used to reread Lord of the Rings every year.
Oh, really?
And like there's so many things in it. It's much like Miyazaki, where I watch it, and like anytime, more so even with the Hobbit, even though the Hobbit movies, I have a lot more problems with them from a storytelling aspect, but like they do those cooking scenes, or like in Fellowship, like Sam is prepping meals, and it's like, damn it, now I gotta go cook something.
Yeah,
it's the same when I read it too. Like anytime they would stop, it's like, but I mean, you were gone about it. Didn't you buy the soundtrack before I even got back? Like you would listen to the soundtrack at home?
Oh yeah, and that's all I listened to for like almost a year. I never get tired of the soundtrack. I never get tired of the movie. I mean, if you think about it, even like the first hour is just them hanging around and partying.
Right. No, I mean, that's the best part.
I mean, it's just like, it's the best thing ever to watch. You want to be there. You want to just be in the Shire, hanging out with Gandalf, shooting fireworks and drinking with the hobbits. That is the ideal life. I think that's the ideal life for you and I. I don't know if it is for anybody else.
Right.
If there's a God out there wants to create the heaven for us, just create the Shire with an unlimited stack of comics, and then we're good. That's it.
Well, and I mean, so perfectly casted, like
all around. There's not a
Viggo
single complaint.
Mortensen as Aragorn, like
perfect.
Merry and Pippin, fantastic. Like, yeah, I mean, yeah, Sean Astin is Samwise is like everybody's favorite, but it's definitely my favorite. Lauren's hands down favorite of the entire trilogy. Where you cry at that scene, this has turned into just like a Lord of the Rings love fest at the end of this.
It must be. It has to be.
Hers is the end of. I mean, my wife is a huge crier, if you don't know, but for her, it's in Return of the King, when Sam has to carry it, when he's like, I may not be able to carry it, but I can carry you, and picks him. Oh my God.
Yeah.
I'm glad we weren't dating at the time, because people would have thought that I'd kidnapped her in the theater if we'd watched that in the theater. The amount of crying that she does. But yeah, when we went to see it, you cried then. I remember freaking out because I thought,
I'm a crier, ladies and gentlemen. I'll cry at a good movie scene.
Well, I've got no beef crying, but I freaked out more that I thought they were going to kill Sam when he tries to go for the boat and goes down. I was like, none of this makes sense if they kill Sam. What the hell is happening right now?
That's
and then
evil.
It made for a really cool scene, but I mean, yeah. But no, I don't know why I didn't think about Fellowship. That's true.
And Autumn and I were discussing this past year when we were watching it. For us anyway, because she's in the same boat as me, every movie we ever watch now, that movie is the bar. It's the total bar, and we very rarely have reached that level of excitement and feeling, and especially the way it was rolled out. That was actually, I think that the way Lord of the Rings came out was something that was seeded in Kevin Feige's brain in building out the Marvel universe, like the way the anticipation was building with putting out one movie because nobody had really done that before ever. And it just, it's also kind of a milestone in that way. And just that I remember that whole 3-year period of just the excitement of the next one coming, and everything was Lord of the Rings. We had Lord of the Rings chess sets, we had Lord of the Rings games. We were just it was just fantasy had finally become a non-cheesy, globally accepted phenomenon. I think that's what Sword and Sorcery had moved out of the cheesy 80s spray painted painting on the side of a van sort of era of filmmaking and into something prestigious. So it's but maybe we should just spend an hour talking about Lord of the Rings.
Right? Yeah. I think that's what sucks. It got zero fanfare for its 20th. Harry Potter got an HBO special and all this fanfare. And I remember thinking, wow, I guess there is something that Colbert did. I haven't watched it yet, but I guess he did something with the main cast with the Hobbits anyway.
Really? I didn't see that.
Yeah, he zoomed something maybe or something. I don't really know. It's them rapping or something. I don't know, but it's something. And I remember wow, 20 years for it and nothing. Nobody's talking about it anywhere that I'm seeing. So yeah, maybe we should do a breakdown of Lord of the Rings, the flicks.
Maybe we should do a panel. Why don't we just contact Peter Jackson?
Right.
And put on.
Hey, you're
put
probably
him on.
not busy. Just hop on a Zoom with us right quick. Give us your I had it bad. I've watched all of the extended editions. What do you call it? Where they talk over it.
Commentary.
I've watched
Audio commentary.
I've watched Peter Jackson, Philippa, and Fran. The three of them. It's mostly Philippa. I think Fran's on there too, though. Now that I'm thinking about it. But anyway, then the actors had one. I've watched all of that. It's been a long time, but yeah.
I've actually never watched an audio commentary in my life.
You'd be fascinated by Peter, Philippa, and Franz.
Really?
They get into the story of why we decided this and this is cool. And
I just can't stand anything interrupting my movie. In my household, it's everything has to be dark. Nobody can move. If anybody gets up, it's God damn it, I have to pause it. It's just, I have to
start all over now.
I know. It's frustrating. Maybe I'll give it a try someday, but all right.
It's fun. It's interesting, but
so,
all right.
This was a successful 9 to 5, right?
I like to think so. Of course, I thought the first one was, but
no, that was too. I just mean we were aligned where there was no misunderstanding.
Oh, right.
To the requirements,
Yeah.
and my kids went to college. If only I would have.
Yeah, should have made that bet.
I should have bet with like Dusty or someone who.
Yeah, because he's just sitting on enough cash to send all 3 of your kids through college.
Maybe. Anyway. So, sir, I'm hosting this time. You're going to host next time. Do you have any idea what we're going to talk about in our next Mind to 5 collab?
Let's see. We've done comic collabs. We did Spider-Man. We've done books. I think I don't want to do anything associated with flicks. Mm-hmm. We've done 2 kind of back-to-back with flicks.
Agreed.
I think I want to do comics again. Let's see here. Have our little list we were working on.
I'll put in a little Jeopardy chime here.
All right, no, let's do single creator.
Top
5 single, like comics, single creator.
So we're like it can be like anything graphic novel.
It can be.
Wait, do you mean single creator in that they did both the writing and the drawing, or just any
writing and the drawing?
Okay.
Yeah. It doesn't have to be like. I mean, that'd be cool if they did the coloring too, but writing and drawing, single creator writing and drawing, because that might be tougher to try to come up with someone who did the entirety.
Series and or graphic novel, doesn't matter.
It can be a series, but it has to be them the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
Like it can't be, like I don't know. I'm trying to think of anybody that has a seminal run on a comic. That doesn't count. Like it's not. They had other creators before or after or both.
So it's got to be like their idea, their project.
Right.
Okay. I think I feel like I've been waiting for this in my life.
Yeah.
I feel like
that's what it's going to be.
I feel like that this is one of the reasons why I came here on this planet.
Yeah. Just to start these shows and come up with Mind to 5 and
talk about this specifically.
Now I do. Wait, where was I gonna? I did have another thing that I was like, oh, we should probably mention that. Oh, you do have to have read it, much like this one. It's got to be something you've read.
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, I think that's gonna start being just understood, much like this is our favorites. This is not like society's agreed upon top 5. It's our favorites. That may sometimes align with society's picks, because obviously Fellowship being on both of our lists at whatever stage, we're not alone. We're not a minority.
Right.
Lots of people love Lord of the Rings.
You won't be seeing Frank Miller on my list, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just going to put it that way.
Yeah. They're definitely.
I don't hate Frank Miller. I'm just saying he's not.
No, there's definitely.
He's not on that. He's not.
Him.
Yeah, he's not even in my top 20, maybe.
Actually, have to form he might be. Got my top 3. I can think of right now, but given these confines, I might have to think a little bit to get the 2, let alone the honorable mentions. I say that, then I'll get off of here and be like, oh,
right,
be done. But,
no, these have actually the Mind to 5s have been difficult because I have so many I have to limit. Like in this one, I had to eliminate Apocalypse Now, and I didn't really want to.
Yeah.
It just didn't quite reach that. Like, it's like, do I really watch this all the time and everything? It's like one of my favorite movies, and I read the book, but.
That's what ended up forming my top 5 is how many times because there's tons of I mean, I had The Godfather on there, and it's like that where.
What do you return to?
How many times do I return to it?
Yeah.
And my top 5, I mean, I've watched Jaws more than I've had hot meals.
You think so? Yeah. All right, sir. That's a good one. I really appreciate it.
This was fun.
All right.
I dug it.
Everybody stay tuned. Go out and buy Aaron's books. All right.
Buy all of the Mulderverse.
All of my stuff. You can find him at aaronconaway.com. You can find him all over Instagram and Facebook. You can find me at danielmullerweb.com. We've got tons. We got a collab comic in the works right now.
Where do you see this cover?
Ooh, it is going to debut at Planet Comic Con this April. So come see us because you have the opportunity to win a free commission if you come see us.
It's true. It's a joint effort commission too. So something from both
collab
of us.
by both the greatest writer and the greatest artist in the history of the universe. You got to.
I didn't know we knew them, but cool.
Sell yourself, man. Sell it. All right.
That's right.
Cool. All right. Everybody, take it easy out there. Stay safe and keep it psycho.
Take it easy, folks.